Do not have a quorum. Thank you for starting the recording. We do not have a quorum due to some late breaking schedule changes for some of our members. But we're going to go ahead and do our best to get through under public meeting law. If there's not a vote on something here, it can happen at HERC this afternoon. So we will still use this for a public forum to get the expertise from those of you members who could make it. So with that, I'll start with the staff report while we wait for Antoinette to call in, and we'll go from there. First of all, we have legislative session ended at the end of June. No bills affecting our work directly passed this year or were signed by the governor. And but what did happen has happened subsequently is the health authority is hosting a benefit update project work group that's kind of similar to one of the bills that was in the House Healthcare Committee related to our benefit update project work, which still needs to happen because our federal waiver is ending. Adrian is our HERC member who is going to represent you all on that. And then we also have Mary Beth and Rob and Kat Livingston who are serving not as HERC representatives, but people very familiar with our HERC work. So it'll be great to see some familiar faces on that. Those are public meetings. Anybody is welcome to attend. But only members are being invited to speak at those. So those will be meeting, I believe, twice a month through the end of the year, at least for recommendations. And we had a good kickoff session yesterday. Adrian or Mary Beth, anything you'd like to add about that before I move on?
No. That was a good job. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you all for your time and efforts on that committee. Appreciate you all.
Okay. I think that's really all I have for the staff report. We have a couple of upcoming things in process for EBGS and the coverage guidance world. That hypogloss. So we have the hypoglossal nerve stimulation coverage guidance coming, but then the previous review on other surgeries for sleep apnea. We're going to be starting that project up again since the year of extra time requested by EBGS has come, and there's a little bit of new evidence. Unfortunately, it's not doesn't seem to change conclusions on preliminary analysis, but we want to go ahead and finish the process and go through our process and get public comment and all that. So that will be coming to EBGS, I believe, in December. Are we on track for that? Val? Thank you.
February. December. February.
Oh, it's February?
Yeah, we're canceling December.
Oh, that's right. We needed to cancel December for due to some absences. So
yes, we were ready for December.
Yeah, you're ready for December, but we won't have the right people to make that meeting happen. And with all the holidays, it's hard to reschedule. So that is all I have for a staff report today. Oh, I should also mention from the retreat, we talked about our decisions standard document, and I'm working with staff to bring that for our October HERC meeting. So we'll be putting that out and giving members an opportunity to give more input on that as well.
Yes.
Okay. And with that, we can move on. Do we have Antoinette? Did somebody join on the phone? Michelle?
Yes, this is Daphne. Yes, I'm gonna push the button right now so we have quorum. Hi, Antoinette, welcome.
You may need to press.
It's Internet. I have been on. it's Antoinette. I have been on, we've got to figure this out. It doesn't tell you how to unmute, so I'm trying to figure it out how to unmute, but I have been on, and I'm trying to get online. The link that was sent for the meeting today refers to a the September 11th meeting, so I don't know how to join, online without calling in.
Okay,
That's why I
Michelle,
wasn't able to call in.
Michelle or Daphne, could you send that link to her? I'm not sure what happened there.
But while you're on the phone, we have quorum.
We do have quorum, and *6 will mute you and then mute you. Antoinette, thank you for navigating all that.
I was able to register online for the public page this morning and it worked pretty well.
Okay, so you might want to look on our public website. I'm not sure what happened with the calendar invitation.
Okay, staff report is done.
Okay, staff report is done. We can now do the minutes. There is one thing with the minutes. Oh, we should call the roll. Yeah, let's go ahead and call the roll. Daphne, would you mind doing that?
Absolutely, happy to. Having been online without getting unmuted, sorry about that. Antoinette Hawachi.
Here.
Thank you for your patience. Mary Beth Ongrove,
Here.
Holly Jo Hodges,
Here.
Adrian Irwin,
Here.
Sarah Love,
Here.
Chris Pinzon.
Here.
With that, we have quorum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daphne. We need to approve the minutes, and just as a general announcement, Lisa Kouzes has submitted some she wanted some of her testimony modified in the minutes. Staff actually went back and looked at the whole transcript, and we are only suggesting a minor change based on what was actually spoken. So there is basically a single word change.
So can you see that somewhere?
I mean,
You don't have easy access.
yeah, so it was talking about there was no relationship between cervical spine manipulation and and dissection, but she was like, it's a causal. There is a relationship, but it's not causal. And then her other suggestions that for changes didn't really appear to be what was actually in what was spoken, so we're not changing anything. So it's just
We're just checking against the transcript to make sure it's accurate. We'll do that correction.
yeah. So that if you are willing to, if anyone wants to move with the one friendly change.
Can you show us the friendly change so we can
Yeah.
approve it?
I am. Yeah, sorry.
On page 23 of the public packet.
Okay.
Is that fine?
23 of the public.
Yeah, or the minutes where it was talking about her.
Yeah, sorry, I accessed them for me a little bit, so here's the DVDs for last month.
I can read it aloud here. So she says. The minutes said Lisa Kouzes, DC, her member, testified that cervical artery dissection is very rare. The best available evidence does not support a relationship with cervical manipulation, and we will correct that to say a causal relationship.
Right here. That
Yes.
doesn't work that.
Is this the only
Most of
that we
you,
have
but
now?
yeah.
Okay,
but
that's interesting.
yeah.
So where there will be a word causal inserted right there.
In the final minutes. It's not for a causal relationship.
Which is actually what she said again later, so it's consistent. Okay.
And then you basically change it.
All right.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Daphne. You're sounding a bit muddled to us online, or at least to a couple of us.
Yeah, because we're all facing the board, because now we got the board facing away from the mic. So here we are.
Pointing out,
So
if you could see behind us that there's a single word that will be inserted into the minutes.
yeah. So if you join the meeting, you can see the board. So I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written with this correction.
This is Mary. Move to approve with the correction.
Thank you. And a
Chris,
second.
second. Chris Pinzon, second.
Chris, second. Thank you very much. All in favor? Are we going to run roll or can we just say aye?
We need to call the roll, if you would.
Absolutely. Antoinette has her hand raised. Mary Beth Ongrove,
Approve.
Adrian Irwin,
Approve.
Sarah Love,
Approve.
Chris Pinzon,
Approve.
and Holly Jo Hodges.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
And then the EBGS, we can do at HERC.
And just to let you all be aware, that the staff minutes, there were a couple of typo corrections that were made as a wrong. And then if we want to move on to the straightforward items, we have our usual straightforward table. There's just a couple entries. And then there were a couple of straightforward guideline note changes. One adds a medical code that's equivalent to a dental code. And then urine drug testing, there was a mistake where it was 15 drug classes when the actual code is for 14 drug classes. So we're changing that.
What page are we on?
What
page? Of the packet, public packet.
Straightforward is page 77.
Thank you.
I didn't want to see it. And it looks like the guideline notes are at 119.
What one code?
Oh, wait, no, I'm looking at ICD 10s. I'm sorry, the straightforward is at 72.
Got it. I don't know that. Okay. Great. Entertain a motion to accept those as written.
Motion to approve
Thank
And
you,
I'll
Chris.
second.
as written.
And Mary seconds. Run the roll call, please.
I couldn't find unmute. Thank you. Antoinette? Raised hand. Mary Beth Ongrove,
Approve.
Adrian Irwin,
Approve.
Sarah Love,
Approve.
Chris Pinzon,
Approve. Sorry, it's on mute.
that's all right. And last, Holly Jo Hodges.
Approve.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I have a question, Ariel? When do these go into effect?
Then one.
October 1st.
October. Thank you.
So we can move on to the new ICD-10 codes. These will also go into effect 10/1. You have a table in your packet with all of the straightforward code placements. I just want to call your attention. This is going to look a teeny bit different than in the past because we now have 2 placement recommendations, one for the 10/1 list and then one for the 1127 BUP list. If there's nothing listed in the 1127 column, it will be the same. We will convert the line to a code grouping and it will just be the same. There are some that are different, particularly those that are being placed below the line, below the funding. Does anyone want to pull out any of the straightforward for discussion? I do have a few that I anticipate we might need some discussion that I wanted to run a little bit.
So Ariel, can I just clarify? So the buckets that we've always been talking about for the BUP project, the numbers are like each one of those is already in a bucket, so it'll just move to the bucket that it's placed in already. Is that my understanding?
So if something is like the first one, which is like an infestation code, That was gonna go on, shoot, I have to pull that up.
These are new codes.
Yeah, so these are newly published, ICD
Oh.
ten.
Okay,
so
yeah, yeah.
Chris- Yeah, Chris, we used to only
So
get
they were
ICD
never-
10 codes in October, now we get them all year long. So they're new ICD-10 codes.
We get a little bit of this card, yeah. And so if you see only one placement recommendation, like for example, the first code goes into body infestations, that's gonna become a code grouping, but it will stay together with its other, with all the things that
The
are there.
bucket. It'll stay with the
Yeah.
bucket. Yeah, I think
It'll
that was
stay
the
with the
analogy you gave us. I'm like going with
It'll
that.
stay with that
Okay,
bucket.
thank you.
Does anybody have any they want to pull out and talk about? Otherwise, we'll let Ariel direct us to her concerns.
Yeah, there's not actually really concerns. The ones I pulled out either need a little more information or they're not following the typical placement for that kind of code. I just wanted to call that out and see if there's any concerns. The first is cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. This is a vomiting syndrome caused usually by overuse of cannabis products. It's usually just treated by cessation of cannabis use, but it may need fluids, antiemetics, etc.
Sorry to interrupt. All of these issue summaries follow page 119.
Thank you, Daphne. And so usually this is an R code. Usually R codes just go into the diagnostic file, but because this would be treated with substance use treatment to have someone quit cannabis, I'm suggesting putting it on line 4. It would still be at all of the fluids and diagnostic testing or whatever would be available. The next one is Gulf War illness. There are 6 new codes being assigned to Gulf War illness or effects of other war theater. The VA, not surprisingly, has done most of the work in this area. And the reason I'm pulling this one out is that the VA has done a deep dive into all of the treatments, etc. They're recommending that this be treated like chronic fatigue syndrome, which we have on a non-funded line. But they do point out that that psychotherapy can be very helpful. So what I am recommending to follow the VA guidelines that for 10-125, we place it on the same line as chronic fatigue syndrome and related disorders. And then for 11-127, that will be converted over to conditions benefiting from psychotherapy. So it's kind of 2 separate placements to try to match up with the VA. And then there's a set of codes for genetic susceptibility to cancer. Most susceptibility codes are informational. They're usually secondary codes. Why do you need a colonoscopy every 3 years instead of every 10? Family history of colon cancer, etc. However, fallopian tube cancer is a subset of ovarian cancers. They're finding many ovarian cancers actually arise in the fallopian tubes. So I wanted that placed where the ovarian cancer susceptibility genes are, and that would be on the line 190 for the high risk of breast cancer, which is also where we have our prophylactic oophorectomy and hysterectomy and fallopian tube resection, and all of the other ones will be informational, where they can be used as secondary codes. And then there's a personal history of fallopian tube cancer, and those I'm recommending cancer of the ovary. It just seems a little bit funny. Fallopian tubes are ovaries, but that is where we're finding many ovarian cancers are actually arising from the fallopian tube. Any questions or concerns or any discussion on any of those codes? Right, hearing none. Should probably vote on that. Yeah.
Or do you want to just have a, do we just want to, we're thinking of one big bunch and save time? We want to go.
Well, that was that bunch. That was a straightforward code placements.
That was the ICD-10 placements.
Okay, it was that section.
Yeah.
Let's vote on that. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the ICD-10 code placements and including the additional Discussion as presented.
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll
Adrian.
second.
Thank you, Sarah. All in favor, we'll run a roll call.
All right, Antoinette,
She's thumbs up, I think.
okay. Michelle, can you see the thumbs up?
Yes.
Okay, great. Mary,
Approve.
or Adrian,
Approve.
Sarah,
Approve.
Sarah,
I'll approve.
Chris,
Approve.
and Holly Jo. Sorry, they're in the wrong order on me.
There is,
Very here, so.
I just go last. Okay, so we'll go to previous discussion items.
Yeah,
This is
cervicogenic,
page 125.
so cervicogenic headaches, we've had several, quite in-depth discussions about cervicogenic headache and spinal manipulation. I was asked to, at the June meeting, to bring, the staff recommendation at that point was to have a limit of 30 cervical spine manipulations for cervicogenic headache to match the back lines. There was concern that was too many treatments. I was asked to look into the number of treatments that were generally used in studies and bring a revised recommendation. Staff have actually revised this even further and have come up with 2 options for you. So looking at the evidence, there was a systematic review in 2022, pulling out the number of treatment sessions in the underlying studies. They ranged from 1 to 18. And there was one study that looked at the dose response of spinal manipulation. And it's Haas 2018. They had 0, 6, 12, or 18 sessions. The group that got 0 actually got spinal massage. They found that the 6 and 12 visits had a reduction in 1 headache day per month. And then an additional 1 headache day per month reduction between 12 and 18 visits. The minimal clinically important difference is considered to be about 1 headache day per month in the migraine literature. I know this isn't a migraine, but that would be the equivalent. They found that the only statistically significant difference in headache day per month was in the 18 session group compared to the control group. The authors then basically tried to explain this by saying that neck massage was actually an active intervention. But if you looked at all of their data, if you looked at all of the other outcomes that they were looking at, disability, willingness to seek the same treatment, global improvement, etc., it didn't change after 12 visits, which was more in line with what they saw in the different underlying studies in the systematic review. And expert guidelines recommend 6 to 12 visits. So it appears that the number of sessions would need to be between 1 and 18. Majority of studies either use 6, 8, or 12 sessions, and that seemed to be about where the dose response study was finding saturation, although they did find improvement up to 18 sessions. Expert guidelines recommend 6 to 12 sessions. So staff, if you want to continue with the previous staff recommendation to put in spinal manipulation into the headache line and have a guideline that would pair it with cervicogenic headache, I would recommend somewhere between 6 and 18 treatments a year, although I feel that 6 to 8 or even 12 would probably be the most appropriate. There was another option that when staff kind of internally discussed this, it would be to put the diagnosis of cervicogenic headache into the back pain line because it does arise from neck issues. That would remove the requirement to have osteopathic and chiropractic manipulation codes in the headache line. And then we would have to do some modifications to the guideline to say that treatments, the 30 visit limit would include treatments for cervicogenic headache, but cervicogenic headache would be only in that code grouping for the chiropractic and osteopathic manipulation, not for the other back treatments. So I thought this would be a good discussion item for you all to see which of those 2 strategies would make more sense to you. And I'm happy to answer questions or go into more detail in either of the options.
We limit acupuncture to 12.
Yeah. So I guess the first question would be, would it be more appropriate to leave cervicogenic headache in the general headache code grouping? And then put the osteopathic and chiropractic manipulation codes into that code grouping with a limitation that it's only for that one diagnosis? Or would it make more sense to add the cervicogenic headache to the back?
I'd like to Holly Joe or Mary, like somebody who's really deep in the weeds
Yeah, I think, I mean,
operationally.
Mary, to me, off the top of my head, it makes more sense to add it to the spinal manipulation line, because that's really what is happening.
I agree with that. I think that makes more sense, operationally.
Yeah, and then what we would need to do if we want to go ahead and I think it makes more sense to staff as well. That way we don't have a lot of complicating codes pairing and whatever. We would need to do in guideline note 56, which is for the non-interventional treatments for conditions of the back and spine. Most of the changes in there are our usual changing to the BUP format. And there would be a couple of changes where it talks about a total of 30 visits of PTOT, chiropractic, and acupuncture. Under chiropractic, it would have a parentheses, including procedures done for treatment of cervicogenic headache. And then there would be a little 2-sentence paragraph added. Cervicogenic headache is included in this code grouping only for pairing with osteopathic manipulation treatment and chiropractic manipulation treatments. Cervicogenic headache treatments are not subject to the back pain risk stratification outlined above. That would limit how many treatments you get, and it's not really appropriate for the headache.
And then we're not otherwise eliminated.
It would be within the limits for the 30 visits that you can get for PTOT.
So it would either be part of that mixture, meaning it could be 2, it could be 30.
Yes, we could limit it further and say you can almost,
And treatments for this are limited to 12.
yeah, we could add, I've had wording.
And that, and the limitation comes from where?
So
That
in the
number.
in the
comes
back
from the-
treatment guideline, we say.
No, I understand. Yeah, I handle that. I'm talking about just for the cervicogenic headaches. Where did you get the limitation? Is that in the evidence that
The evidence is
they only
probably
need?
somewhere between 6 and 12 visits, and 12 would be the same as acupuncture. I think that would be very reasonable. I think I heard someone propose
So
that.
it's an evidence-based limit.
Yeah. And we can say, where it says cervicogenic headaches and this code grouping for pairing with chiropractic and osteopathic manipulation, we could put in this sentence that was proposed above. For up to 12 treatments per year.
And I'm just tracking, so the discussion with, because it was David Sanger who raised this question, right? And was that raised at HERC the last meeting or BBBS? Because I think Holly's maybe missing. A couple of things went different directions at HERC last time as compared to BBBS.
That was 2 meetings ago, but yes.
Katie Schable. Huh?
Katie
Oh, was it
Schable.
Katie
Yes,
Schable?
Katie, it was 2 meetings ago. Yes, that I missed all, but
Okay. So I think wasn't BBBS was more okay with just aligning this with the back pain, and then when it was discussed at HERC, somebody didn't.
Yeah.
Thought it was too much, and then now it's like come back in this way, so.
So I'm just trying to understand where the limitation is. That I just want to know, is that evidence-based or are we arbitrarily picking a limit? And it sounds like it's evidence-based
Basing it on the underlying studies.
that have been done.
So
that's
the
great.
12 would be based roughly on the underlying student. The thing,
And
the
the
complication
professional guideline.
is, I talked to Dr. Cruz about this, is, you know, if you approve 12 just for this diagnosis, somebody could end up with 42 visits a year, which is, you know, a lot. And then the 30 visit limit also isn't particularly tied to evidence. It's more of a practical
So it's a
situation.
benefit limit, which is, yeah,
Yeah.
more than I get, but, so, I'm just trying to understand the 12.
Yeah.
And I think we can all work with the 12. Most of us we're configured such that you, when you hit 30 total, you're done. But, we can also code it by the ICD-10s that it's limited to 12. within this scope grouping.
Yeah, right there. So it would say for up to 12 treatments a year. So
Mary,
it would have two limits. The chiropractic would, you've got the 30 PTOT chiropractic acupuncture
Understood.
for all things in that code group.
Good.
And then cervicogenic headache for up to 12 treatments a year, but it's also listed as.
part of the 30.
Yeah.
Got it. Mary,
Sorry, I think you just said what I was gonna ask, but so the 12 is within the 30. Is that right?
correct.
For guideline. Okay,
Correct.
perfect. Thank you so much.
And Mary, do you agree that that's operational? We can tie
Yes.
that. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Other thoughts?
Can we look at those sentences? I'm just trying, can we look at that as a totality again? Because I'm just remembering, because there was a long conversation about like 48, because I'm remembering a long conversation about like 18 and then the 30 and the 48. So is that clear that the intention of that is that this is 30 visits total within that 12 can be in this space?
So
I don't think it's particularly clear. It says 30 visits in here.
Right.
30 visits.
For any combination of the following evidence-based therapies.
We should put a colon here to say that, the following is within this.
So yeah, maybe that's what we need to
So,
do.
but if you go down a little bit, Liz, so the chiropractic and osteopathic, there's a clause, including procedures done for treatment of cervicogenic headache, and then we limit cervicogenic headache.
That's before then, cervicogenic.
No, see, it's under 2. So don't hang on, so go back up just a touch. So a total of 30 per year for combination evidence based on, okay, so then, because these are tapped under that. As 1, 2, and 3, so rehabilitative therapies are provided for accounting 6. Chiropractor, okay, so I think I do think we're. If we're gonna label them. Okay, we have physical so we have PTOT. And we wrap in guideline note 6, so, okay, there's 1, 2 is chiropractic or osteopathic manipulation, including cervicogenic headache, 3 acupuncture. All right, I think we got. Does that all make sense now? Does that make sense?
Shouldn't it be under 2 then?
No, the cervicogenic headache has more limitations in here. You don't need the start back risk tool because it's technically not really in there. And it doesn't pair with all of the other things that are in there. It's just there for the manipulation. And you can only get 12 visits for that diagnosis. You could get another 18 for your low back pain, if that's how you choose to use your 30.
I guess
Should we
visually.
Should we specify that number 2 is for back pain, not cervicogenic headache, in case somebody had stopped reading?
No,
I have to read the whole sentence.
You have to read.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you want to say for up to 12 treatments per year and then comma and say like within the 30 above? That way it's clear that it's like, that this is intended to be bundled within the 30
Yeah.
above. Like I think that's
Within
Should be
the 30 total benefit.
which are included in the 30 visit total in, what is
So
that?
then again, whatever.
Okay, so she's
I guess-
just written, within the 30 total treatments. Maybe you say allowed or something.
Would it be possible to put acupuncture as 2 and move the other down to 3 so that it feels like it's kind of floating in the middle? But then it relates to what's immediately above it.
So you're saying just change the order of 2 and 3?
Yeah, just move it looks just like acupuncture is kind of floating in the middle. But then it's easier to see that it flows from that number 3 statement when it's immediately below it.
Okay, so we could do 1 PTOT, 2 acupuncture, 3 the manipulations, and then.
3A?
Into the air within the 30 total treatments allowed above. Or which are included in the 30 visit limit above.
Okay, let's try to keep this as clean and
Or
short.
how about just 12 of the 30 treatments allowed per year?
That's allowed per guideline note 6 and 56.
But this is guideline about 56.
I'm just trying to make this as clear as possible. Either just leave it at allowed.
Or, I mean, 12 of 30 makes it clear it's part of the package.
Yeah, I think it's cool.
I think so. Let's go back up to the top, just because I'm trying to understand, clear the top, very top, because okay, because we have bullet points and then from bullet points, we go to numbers. I'm just trying to make sure that this all,
Those.
yeah, and then we get to bullet point 30, and then under 30, we talk about what's included in that 30. Which makes great sense, and then we come back out with some following comments and information. And restrictions really.
I'm not standing.
Okay, let me check. My nursing staff is usually on and will ping me if something's awry, and they have not. All right, anybody else? Is that all good?
Option 2.
Should we make a motion on this alone, or do we have other things?
I would do it this alone, just. Option 2 is modified. That really wants to.
Okay,
Motion to approve option 2 as modified.
beautiful, thank
I'll
you.
second.
Seconded by Sarah. Run the roll call for approvals, please.
Thank you. Antoinette Awachi,
Aye.
Mary Beth Ongrove,
Approve.
Adrian Irwin,
Approve.
Sarah Love,
Approve.
Chris Pinzon,
Approve.
and Holly Joe Hodges.
Approved.
Motion carries. Thank you.
On my staff. I think that's super helpful.
Great. All right, and next topic is insomnia, and this was discussed at the last meeting. We had a provider who had come to us talking about how difficult it was to access cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI. I have brought a proposal to the June meeting that would allow medication use when CBTI was not available. Members did not agree with this. They felt that CBTI was the most evidence-based treatment, and a better alternative would be to require 4 to 6 weeks of documented education on the pieces of CBTI that are found to be the most effective. There was also a question about use of CBTI apps. And we looked into that. So we'll go through a little bit of this. So the current insomnia guideline allows treatment with short-term medications only if you are currently in CBTI or you have been in CBTI in the past year and didn't respond. We looked into the apps, and it turns out the HIT codes that would be needed for these apps are actually in our excluded services guideline note 2. Because there was a med report that found a lot of difficulties with that. So looking at the evidence, there was a systematic review published last year that broke down the critical components of CBTI. They were cognitive restructuring, mindfulness and acceptance and commitment, sleep restriction, and stimulus control. Sleep hygiene was not essential, and relaxation procedures were potentially counterproductive. They did find that in-person therapist-led therapy was most beneficial. And then looking at the apps, there are many types of apps. A couple of them have FDA approval, and they have some evidence of benefit, but we weren't, HERC staff looking at the data that was provided in the review, it wasn't possible to determine if the statistically significant change in outcomes that we reported had any clinical significance. And other reviews are basically, some of these are useful, some are not. And a lot of them are reviews of single entity apps. Expert guidelines, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, they describe if you're going to do single component therapies, you should do stimulus control, sleep restriction therapy, and relaxation therapy. There's a conditional recommendation against use of sleep hygiene, which is the only thing I ever tell my patients about. So,
I know.
and then the American Academy of Sleep Medicine had their emerging technology committee looked at their digital cognitive behavioral therapy. And they note when CBTI access is limited, when there's extended wait lists or et cetera, they suggest digital CBTI through websites or downloadable applications, which are apps. But they did note there's a lot of limitations in the current literature, and many of these apps actually have no published studies. So, we have the OHA has a mental health clinical advisory group that, MHCAG. They have published a guideline on treatment of chronic insomnia in adults. They note that cognitive behavioral therapy treatment is usually only needs 6 sessions, and they can be provided in person or via telemedicine. And then they note that the CBTI, the most effective things to include are stimulus control therapy, sleep restriction, and some form of cognitive therapy. They also have a list in their published guideline of various apps and books that were recommended. So in summary, we've reviewed in the past treatments for insomnia. CBTI is by far the most effective treatment. However, it's not currently widely available, particularly for the OHP population. If you look at the components of CBTI, so in looking at apps, the MCAG actually does have some lists of apps that would be useful, but the evidence on that is somewhat limited, and the HIT-PIC codes that would be needed are currently excluded. BBBS previously has said that they did not want the apps, so HERC staff would recommend that we not consider apps at this time. And then the pieces that were the most critical in the literature for CBTI are sleep, stimulus control, sleep restriction, and relaxation therapy. So the staff is recommending that we could modify the insomnia guideline to say that if CBTI is not available, then treatment with hypnotic medications is included only if you have a 6-week documented trial in the medical record of at least 3 of the following. I did include sleep hygiene because that is a typical basic thing that most primary care doctors do. We may want to consider removing that because of the recommendation against by the ASM. But then stimulus control, sleep restriction, and relaxation therapy seem to be effective. Unfortunately, we can't do cognitive behavioral therapy without an active therapist. So this wouldn't be something that would be available. We also could make no change if that would be preferred and continue to require CBTI in its entirety because of the evidence that it's effective.
So Ariel, if you said at least 3 of the following and you removed sleep hygiene, then it would just be,
You would have to have the following.
yeah. It wouldn't restrict primary care from that practice if it's what's in practice, but it would be consistent with the evidence that we've learned today.
Yes, we could take out sleep hygiene and it would be documented trial of the following. And that would be stimulus control, which is where it's an education thing about